Hello and welcome to episode 151 of The Pitcher or the Hitter, the podcast by the M-SABR Dynasty League for the M-SABR Dynasty League. I am Cam,
I'm Sahil.
and we are recording this one a little bit late. Uh, Tuesday recording, Tuesday pod, a little late for. We thought we weren't going to get an episode up this week. I was up north for the Eclipse, and I arrived home at about 3 a.m. yesterday, or really 3 a.m. today, and had to work early in the morning, and then you had work to do, but we are squeezing in a pod nonetheless because it was a very interesting week.
For so many reasons. I mean, even beyond what happened in the matchups, not that the matchups were not interesting. But I mean, what a week it's been. The pitcher injuries, some really big ones. I mean, what a week. A lot to
Yeah,
break.
I have a proposal. I'm just going to throw it on air. There's a lot more pitcher injuries than there used to be. I know we don't want to um, add unlimited IR spots. ESPN only allows us a maximum of 8. I would propose long-term pitcher IR spot just to get a guy off your team.
I like the concept of that. I think we would have to kind of workshop what the numbers would look like for that, but the concept of it is interesting.
Honestly, it can just be like a very simple, if this guy um is currently undergoing or recovering from Tommy John surgery, you can take him off your team and free up an IL spot because it is an epidemic. My IL is full, and I feel like I guess I've got one open spot, but I feel like I've been less injured than normal despite, and I have a full IL. I think, it's an epidemic, and I'm never going to get my unlimited IL, but I feel like this is a good compromise.
Yeah, I'm looking at who has empty IL spots. Jake somehow has four. You have one. Um, Yuki has four. Daniel and Matt have two. Connor has two, but also has an empty bench spot. Anthony has three. Uh, Andrew's rostering an extra IL player on an active roster spot because he's got so few spots. Or not Eric, EBO has three spots. Ruthvik has three. Alex has none. And Erik has none. So yeah, I mean, everybody has at least four players on the IL, and some teams have more. And some teams even have more than the 8. And it is week 2 or week 3 now. But I mean,
Yeah, no, it's kind of disgusting.
it's bad.
I mean, yeah, new injuries. Framber's hurt. Strider is hurt. Strider's the big one. Did we talk about Strider last week? I'm not.
No, we did not talk about Strider last week, but I'm glad you brought him up. So it was originally looking like I was not going to be able to record. So I sent a couple of things to Cam to read off. And one of the things I wanted to touch on was the Spencer Strider situation, specifically. Um, I'll read what I wrote. Remember when I said that there is risk in trading so much depth for elite pieces when you don't have a perfect plan to backfill? Strider's injury looms large over Jake's head, assuming he needs Tommy John, and the way it's all being reported, I don't see why he doesn't need it at this point. It's going to be a second, right? So I get that he's young, but there's always a little more risk with that second Tommy John. Um, and if you're looking around, look, Gosman doesn't look right after the shoulder strain, and his velocity dropped big time against the Yankees in his last game. Castillo's had a slow start. Blake Snell's first start wasn't great. Like, I still have a lot of confidence in Jake's team, but he does have his work cut out for him with these pitching injuries already. And I mean, it's not just him. I mean, other teams too, right? Like, I still have Garrett Cole out, right? You just had Framber get hurt. In fact, Framber's not even on your IL yet. I mean, you have to move him there, but um, like I'm looking
Yeah,
at
I've got the it's pending. It'll be
uh,
I just didn't get it in before roster's lock today.
yeah, but like even then, like I'm looking at your rotation right now, and the one arm I look at that I'm very confident in, it's Zach Wheeler, and a lot of that depth is hurt right now that I feel a lot more confident in. So Um, it's an injury bug that's affecting us all. It's just who can kind of manage around it the best.
No, absolutely. And that feels like a good transition into Jake's matchup, don't you think?
Yeah, let's do that. Jake, did not really end well for him last week. He lost 8-3 to 1 to Andrew. Kudos to Jake for kind of calling back a little bit to make the score look more respectable. He was just getting absolutely smacked early in the week, but just nothing seemed to go right. Not the worst week offensively. 327 OBP, 13 homers, 37 ribbies, 42 rounds, like fine. Pitching was kind of a mess. 481 ERA, 145 WHIP. Only one quality start out of 9 starts that he had. Andrew, on the other hand, great offensive week, albeit with a low OBP of 319, but everything else was very solid across the board. He 4 holds, 3 quality starts, 63 Ks, all solid, 383 ERA, 126 WHIP, good enough to win this matchup. Like, that's a huge win for Andrew now. And I think that's, I just talked a lot about Jake, but I think this is the story here. He's now beaten you and Jake in back-to-back weeks with a 10 category win over you in the first week and an 8-3 to 1 week two.
Yeah,
Um,
is Andrew retroactively the 2022 champion?
I think you just might be right.
But yeah, no, two big signature wins in a row for Andrew. I agree. Yeah, the on base was low, but overall he hit pretty well. Not Austin Hayes though. He went 0 for 13.
Oh, breaking
Um,
news. Breaking news.
oh,
Jackson Holiday is being called up by the Orioles.
oh, interesting. It's a little earlier than I thought.
Wow. Somebody has to be hurt, I would think.
Yeah,
Um,
it seemed like they were just gonna try and let him play every day second base to get that under his belt a little bit. But
yeah,
someone might be hurt. Yeah.
wow. Okay. Thank God. Well, I gotta tune into tomorrow's game for sure. Good for him.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry to interrupt that. I think that was worth the interruption,
No,
but
absolutely. Congrats to the O's. Congrats to Jackson Holiday owner Alex. Um, we'll see how quick he is to call him up. Um, but yes, back to Andrew's team. Solid week for Ketel Marte. Strong week for Ian Happ, despite no homers. Three doubles for Jamer. Good week for Nolan Shanuel. Walked 7 times. Well, not a good week. He walked 7 times, so he had a 346 on base despite going 1 for 17 at the plate. Good week for Dolis Garcia. I am going to give the matchup MVP though, and I don't like giving it to one start pitchers, but I think Reed Detmers was awesome. 6 innings, 12 Ks, just 1 run, got a quality start. The Ks were big, the quality start was big, and that just a really, really big performance for Andrew. And he's, um, this could be Andrew's guy. This could be, yeah, him and Grayson Rodriguez and Tanner Bybee could be like, it could be that we could be looking at that in a couple of years as one of the top rotations in the league.
I think so. And he didn't even mention Pablo Lopez, who's still really young and has been absolutely dominating. There's a lot of talent on his team there. And he's doing this too with quite a few injuries. I mean, I mentioned he's playing with 9 IL guys right now. Josh Young is literally sitting on his active roster despite the IL. Also missing TJ Friedel, Nate Lowe, Tommy Edman, right? Like we haven't even mentioned young pitchers. Justin Steele had a fantastic year for him last year, isn't healthy. So yeah, I mean, was it Ruthvik on the podcast who said that he thought Andrew was a top 4 team? Am I remembering that correctly?
He did, which I mean, I wonder who he meant out of me or Eric is not a top four team. Unless he's referring to you, which would be very spicy. But yeah, if Andrew could be a top four team, if we were doing power rankings, it would be very, very interesting in what is now a top five.
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that top four is now a top five, and Andrew proved that in the playoffs last year and has followed it up with a very big start to the regular season. So good for
Hmm.
him. I think that's honestly one of my biggest takeaways from this week. But we have to talk about the other thing too. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. I tied. Um,
You tied.
I tied. It came down to fucking what's his face? Ronel Blanco and Ryan Pepion lost. I had a 10 strikeout lead. Alex and I both had two starters going. I was like, okay, like Ronel Blanco, they're probably gonna have a little bit of a pitch count on him. And Pepio was in cores. He struggled his last start. I was like, okay, like I'm probably gonna be fine. Instead, Pepio becomes the first road pitcher in Coors Field history to post a 10 plus strikeout game with no walks. He had 11 strikeouts. And then Ronel Blanco had a no hitter through 5 innings and made it through 6 innings, one hit, and then they took him out of the game. He had just enough strikeouts to put Alex above for the tie. Now, I just needed either a strikeout or a hold, and I would have been able to get the win. Um, Brian Abreu does not come on for a hold. Uh, this whole bullpen now with them also having Presley kind of as a setup guy is really complicating things. And then Hader comes on, and I'm like, all right, Josh Hader, he had like a 41% K rate last year, something bonkers like that. Like he's going to get a strikeout, right? Multiple two strike counts, does not get a strikeout. And I end up tying. Um, Frustrating. First off, kudos to Alex. His team pitched its ass off. Not as great of a hitting week, but he did have 10 stolen bases. Um, and that's kind of one of the kind of trademarks of his team is he's got a young team with a lot of speed. But I've won one pitching category in 2 weeks now. My pitching needs to get its shit together fast. I've been very happy with some individual pitching performances, really encouraged by Dylan Cease. I know that Braxton Garrett's on a rehab assignment right now. His first start went really well. Today was announced kind of out of nowhere that Kyle Bradish is going to start a rehab assignment. I'm very happy about that. And I'm hoping that getting those guys healthy, I can start to piece together this rotation a little bit. And, some of these guys will kind of pick it up. Max Fried, the last few years, has been a really slow starter. He started slow again this year. Aaron Nola as well. So hopefully I can get it together here, but it is frustrating. My one solace is I know that teams like Andrew and Ruthvik, are 2-0, but you're 1-1. Eric's 1-1. Jake's 1-1. If I can beat Erik this week, I can overtake two of you all in the standings. So, not that it's going to be easy already looking at the way this matchup is playing out, but it's still early. This is my worst start in 7 years in the league, but I mean, hey, there was also a season I started 13-0 and lost in the semifinals after having to bye. So you never know. Ruthvik started 0-7 and in hockey and was in the finals and nearly won it. So
Yeah, no, absolutely insane uh of Ruthvik's run. I will say your pitching was pretty good. Your starters rather were pretty good, except for Fried. It was kind of your bullpen that blew it for you. Will Smith was not good. You also got ginked there. Is ESPN not
ironically,
working for you suddenly?
is what not working?
Is ESPN not working for you suddenly? I can't load the league anymore,
No, mine's working. Uh,
dude.
I will say, ironically, so I kind of rage cut Will Smith after one of his shitty outings. If I had just kept him, I would have won because
Brutal.
he got a couple holds the rest of the week. He didn't pitch well, and one of the holds was when he came on for a save and was so garbage that they took him out, but accounted for a hold. Um, but yeah, it was just one of those weeks. Uh,
Yeah. But yeah, on the contrary, I am giving Alex's matchup MVP to a player who single-handedly won his matchup for him, Emmanuel Clase, who had all three of Alex's saves this week. I'd never go closer. I feel like, this was a week. Alex didn't have a ton of standout performances in general. I had a good week from Jaron Duran at the plate. Um, and the Blanco start was good. Pepio's second start was good, even though the first wasn't. Emmanuel Clase got all three of Alex's saves, and he got four strikeouts that flipped Ks. I think, you know, he won this matchup for Alex, and having an elite closer is pretty good thing to have in this league.
Absolutely. I'm hoping my elite closer can start pitching like the elite closer that he is. That would certainly help. But yeah, especially now with all of the pitching injuries, I wonder if that's going to start to be a focus of some teams is kind of shifting to a bit more of a bullpen heavy strategy. And a guy like Clase certainly helps with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, let's move on. And I am trying to find some sort of workaround. I can get my team pulled up for whatever reason. I cannot get the scores pulled up. Why don't you start talking about our next matchup while I figure this out?
Okay. Our next matchup we should talk about. Um, we'll save yours until you can get your stuff together here. But let's go. Oh, now I'm having problems. Um,
Oh, good. And the app's
uh,
not working. Is ESPN having issues?
hold on. Oh God. Yeah, I guess like my app was open, but then I realized some of the stats were loading and then I like clicked over to another page and that's when it all kind of came tumbling down. Um God, are we just gonna have to rip for a bit? Okay, wait, it's back up now. Um but you're right. I'm at the page two where it just has my scores. And oh Christ. All right, well, I guess we can riff for a little bit while we figure this out. Uh, I don't know. Um,
Um, what do you want to riff about? Uh, how was your Eclipse experience? You said it was not very good in North Carolina.
no, so like, I mean, I had to work, but like, thankfully I have a window, so like, peeked out every few minutes, kind of during what was supposed to be the peak eclipse time to see if anything happened, and it got like a little darker, like not like nighttime darker, but like just like ever so slightly like hey it was a little cloudy like that much darker and yeah like nothing of excitement. I mean nothing remotely close to what you saw in the pictures. But yeah, that's how it goes sometimes. Not that I really had time to go out and see it anyway. As I think this might be working now. I think we successfully riffed. Okay. Sounds like you had an amazing experience though.
It was insane. Yeah, I went up to Vermont. I saw full totality. It was seriously cool. The sky got like fully dark. The sun, or it looked like dusk, and the sun was like, I mean, you saw in the pictures, it looked just like that with like the thin corona of the sun around it, and the rest blocked by the moon. It was wild. I've never seen anything like it.
dare I say Minnesota Wild.
Minnesota Wild. I think you can dare to say it.
I
Um,
said it. Is yours working now? Because I was able to pull your matchup up.
yes. Want to talk about mine?
Yeah, riffing over matchups continuing. Cam, take the floor so I can make my dinner.
Yeah. So I beat EBO. It was a nerve-wracking matchup. I don't think I ever trailed, uh, really after like Monday or Tuesday, but there were just a lot of categories in play all week. Zane's team, really the star was EBO's pitching with 77 Ks, ERA of 2.13, a whip of 0.54. I mean, I had I had the best ERA and whip, or I had the best ERA. Uh, EBO had the second best ERA, and EBO had the best whip, and I had the second best whip. So just a great week for Zane. This team's pitching staff is going to cause some problems for other teams this year. I mean, let's just talk about it. Shota Imanaga, I was saved a little bit by him not getting to finish his start on Sunday. As I think I may have just lost it again on ESPN. Yamamoto also got rain. Yeah, didn't get to finish his Sunday start due to rain, or maybe he just got pulled early.
No, he was also ranked. That was Cubs Dodgers.
Oh, gotcha. So
Yeah.
that game being in rain was very fortuitous to me. Either way, I still won 7-3-2. I got 6 quality starts. I feel like I killed it with my Paul Blackburn stream against the um, Tigers on Sunday. I sat down, watched that game, and saw Paul Blackburn pitch a gem. Got into a lot of 2-strike counts and could, or this was Saturday actually. Back when quality starts looked like it could be in play. And he pitched 6 shutout innings. Looked great. But the difference was that my hitting was, well, not as good as I would like it to be. Still pretty solid, whereas EBO's mostly struggled. My hitters, I got a pretty good week from Jonathan India, a good week from Contreras before he got hurt. Aaron Judge, 464 on base, couple of homers, 4 runs, 5 ribbies. Good week from Taylor Ward as well, who, beating up his former team, which is what we like to see. I'm just kind of waiting for my Mets to turn it on. Brandon Nimmo, he walked 7 times, but he went 2 for 16 at the plate. He did have a really great game Monday, which I like to see with a couple of homers. On the pitching side, I got a very good start from Zach Wheeler. I got that Blackburn start. I got a pretty good start from Kikuchi, his second start back on my team, although he did get paddocked. Matchup MVP, though, hands down, my new guy I'm never going to shut up about, Tanner Houck. You know, he's been working on some things this offseason. Andrew Bailey, new pitching coach, joined the team. And boy, howdy, 2 quality starts, 17 strikeouts, no earned runs allowed. Granted, it was against Oakland and the Angels, but listen, only allowed 7 hits and 2 walks in 12 innings. I am absolutely loving this pickup. Just kind of a last guy on the team after Sonny Gray got hurt. I felt like I wanted to add a starting pitcher to the bench. Figured he had the highest upside of anyone out there. And God, I am happy about that ad. He is looking like a true stud.
Well said. I'm hoping, for selfish reasons, that Tanner Houck just gets absolutely wrecked once he starts playing real teams as an Oriole fan. But that pitching staff, man, has looked pretty good to start the year. Although that Pivetta news today was pretty devastating. Poorly timed for Ruthvik for a number of reasons, but hopefully, for his sake, he comes back soon. But yeah, I think well said. This EBO team is going to be a problem all year. We called them the 7th best team in the league in the power rankings. I think they are not doing anything to dispel that notion, and I think that they keep playing like this, they're going to kind of work their way up into top 6 contention here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And moving on here, why don't we talk about Erik v. Yuki? Yuki led most of the week, despite using 0 ads to Erik's 8 ads. In the end, though, Erik did pull out a narrow 7-5 win to avoid dropping to 0-2.
Yeah, huge win for Erik. Definitely one that he needed after a very disappointing week 1 against Ruthvik. He pitched very well. 6 quality starts, 3.04 ERA, one of 6 strikeouts. So the starting pitching was there. The offense Doubles and stolen base wise is definitely there. Solid runs and ribbies totals 4-6. Maybe a little light on the power and the OBP, but he put together a pretty solid week. Yuki as well. I mean, pretty solid week. Like he just narrowly lost in quite a few categories, or actually nearly one categories, narrowly lost some others. Yuki was very good out of the bullpen, but unlike Erik, cannot really string together enough quality starts. I think this is going to be a recurring problem for Yuki all year. I do wonder if he did a little more streaming, if he could have taken strikeouts over Erik and maybe tied. But as it goes, Yuki lost 7-5. Still quality performance for him to kind of, only lose to a team like that 7-5 and be leading most of the week, even if he did lose. So, maybe it's a little bit of a, what's the word I'm looking for? What's the thing? Like, hey, it didn't go perfectly, but like at least you did this. Like, there's a
A moral
phrase.
victory.
Moral victory is not the phrase I'm looking for, but yeah, I mean that's also correct. Yeah, moral victory.
Yeah, I'd say it feels like a moral victory. I think it was a really good showing from his second tier of bats. Luis Arias scored 7 runs. Isaac Paredes drove in 7 runs. Dansby Swanson had a 480 on base. So a good week for that kind of his B bats. Um, he got a really great pitching week out of Dean Kramer as well, granted against Kansas City and Pittsburgh. Um,
That
but
Pittsburgh offense and the Kansas City offense, I think, are sneaky good.
yeah,
Or give him enough credit. MJ Melendez, baby. Yeah.
MJ Melendez, yeah, he is someone that you'll be talking about a lot this year. But great week for Erik. Erik kind of dominated some of the Erik categories like doubles and steals and quality starts. Yeah, 6 quality starts from 6 different pitchers. Great start from Michael Waka. Um, Hunter Green has looked good to start the year. Cole Reagans, I mean, how do we let Erik get Cole Reagans?
I'm so
Um, yeah, but even despite a uh, uh, rough second start for George Kirby and a rough third start for George Kirby in his matchup against you. Um, Still got done on the pitching side. As for hitters, uh, he had a double from the rake. Pretty good week for Trevor Story as well, although he is now hurt. Um, Great week at the plate for Ohtani, who scored 6 runs, couple homers, drove in 5. Teoscar Hernandez continuing his hot start. Ellie De La Cruz, early favorite for matchup MVP of his matchup against you with 2 homers, including inside the park on Monday. But he also had a good week against Yuki as well, with 3 doubles, 4 steals, 3 RBI. I'm going to give it to Marcelo Zuna, though. I just think he didn't steal any bases, but the 455 OBP, 7 ribbies, 6 runs, 3 homers, and a couple of doubles. Um, was kind of the top performer uh, in a good offensive week for Erik. One of the better offensive weeks of any team this week.
well said. I don't really have anything else to add. Good for Erik to get back on track for his sanity.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Um, but yeah, so that Erik is 1-1 now. We got 2 matchups left. Let's talk about Ruthvik because we said it's a top 5, but Ruthvik was also a semis team last year, and he's also 2-0. Granted, he was playing Conor, but I think he looked pretty solid all around.
Yeah, there were a couple moments there where it got a little close, but Ruthvik was able to kind of run away with it. 6 quality starts and 5 saves. I mean, for all the pitching issues going around the league this year, Ruthvik is still able to throw out some pitchers. Although the 136 whip was a bit high. Offensively did enough, 11 homers, 41 ribbies, 46 runs, 5 steals, will win all of those categories. Not his best OBP week, but overall, I thought he did pretty solid. Kudos for keeping us competitive for most of the week. The 5 saves and the 4 holds are really nice. I wonder if teams are going to start calling on some of those bullpen arms that he has. Not much offensively, unfortunately, and that is ultimately what pretty much did him in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Those 5 saves and 5 holds. Yeah, Carlos Estevez and Kyle Finnegan. If he can get some sort of return for either of those guys, I considered reaching out on Estevez. I want to see a little bit more from him first. Um, but yeah, he could um definitely get a return for some amount of these guys, I'm sure, throughout the season. But you're right, hitting was pretty atrocious. Um, except for I guess Yohan Moncada, who had a good on base percentage, but and Correa had a good week too, but tough showing for Gavin Lux. Reese Hoskins 0 for 7 in his lineup. Tough week for Verdugo. Um, yeah, looking at Ruthvik though, yeah, the hitting again, one of the better hitting weeks of uh, any team this week. Uh, not a lot of standout efforts, with the exception of this week's matchup MVP Tyler O'Neill, who hit 3 homers, 3 solo homers, granted, but he also managed to score 8 runs and put up a 500 on base percentage. So Tyler O'Neill looking really good for the Red Sox so far to start this season. Currently the number one outfielder in the play rater.
Yeah, and he just hit a home run off of Corbin Burns today. So I believe it was the only run the Red Sox scored all game, and
God,
it was. So in fact, only one of only two hits they had all game. Jesus.
God.
Yeah, that both in the first inning, they did not have a hit after the first inning. That's nuts. It's Corbin Burns effect, baby. Um,
Corbin Burns effect. A
yeah,
couple more Ruthvik's bats I want to briefly touch on. Michael Garcia, Ruthvik's been talking about a lot. He drove in 7 runs. And Jackson Churio made his debut. Um, or yeah, he debuted last week, but he's kind of been on Ruthvik's active roster. Hit 2 homers this week. The on base percentage wasn't good, but he did hit a couple long balls, and he's on Ruthvik's active roster.
absolutely. The Michael Garcia one I think is especially interesting to me because he like did not have much power last year. And the whole thing was like he's not really going to hit for home runs, but he's going to be interesting as he's going to lead off in Kansas City and he's going to steal a ton of bases. Well, he has like 3 home runs already this year after having 4 all of last year. I don't know if it's a swing change. I don't know if it's luck. I don't know what it is, but that's something to kind of keep an eye on, I think. Because if he can develop even to like a 15 home run hitter, I think you're kind of looking at like Prime Whit Merrifield with him. And that's a really fun profile.
It is interesting. It's not a profile that I like having on my team per se, but it is an interesting one, for sure. All right. There is one more matchup left. Anthony with a very convincing 9-1 win over the Drury to improve to 2-0. So a good start for Anthony's team. I think he might have had the high on base percentage for this week. And definitely a really great ERA and whip. I actually was mistaken when I said me and EBO were 1-2 in whip because Anthony beat us both.
Yeah, he had a really solid week. I mean, 239 ERA, 0.94 whip. That's hard to beat. 15 homers, 10 steals, 364 OVP, 42 ribbies. Um, it's I think I might have said this last week about Anthony's team. When this team is healthy, it's got some really interesting pieces. The problem is some of these guys he has, I'm looking at Mike Trout, looking at Jazz Chisholm, looking at O'Neill Cruz. Um, they just have not been able to stay healthy in past years. But if they could stay healthy, like coupled with a pitching staff that I think you and I both agree is pretty solid, like if this offense can kind of start to pick it up, I mean, he's a sneaky, solid team that has a lot of upside. So, um, uh, not only those guys too, but one guy who I hope you highlight here is Spencer Steer to start the season that he's had.
Oh man, Spencer Steer, NL Player of the Week. Fantastic week for Spencer Steer. 3 homers, 9 RBIs, 500 on base, stole a base also. He is looking awesome so far.
Yeah, yeah, that Spencer Steer for Tanner Bibby trade is looking more and more like a win-win every day.
No, absolutely. Yeah, looking further down his team, Mike Trout is back. Good week for Alex Kirilloff. Yeah, good week for Michael Conforto. Um, and Willie Adames had a solid week too. On the pitching side, um, yeah, it was Hunter Harvey had a couple of holds and 6 Ks in just 2 2/3 innings. Really great start for Garrett Crochet. Two great starts. Only one of them was only 5 innings, but really solid start to the year for Garrett Crochet, who is um, got a 2 ERA through 3 starts. Christian Javier was good, but only in 5 innings. Good start for Bryce Miller. I am going to give MVP to Spencer Steer, though. Just too good of an offensive week.
Well said, yeah, and well deserved for Spencer Steer. Yeah, I mean, when you win NL Player of the Week, it's kind of hard to justify picking against him. So, um, yeah, he was awesome. No, no comments there other than that.
Yeah. The only other thing though about this matchup, really bad offensive week for the Drury. I mean, 2 homers all week, 17 RBI, which uh are both a little bit clear of the anti records, but not by much. The anti home run record was Connor's 1 week 9 of last year, and the fewest RBI was Ruthvik's 12 in week 7 of 2019. Um, so he's safe of those, but just a rough offensive week for this team. Encarnacion Strand did not have a good week. Nolan Jones was not great. Bryson Stott, Henry Davis, Jose Abreu, just kind of tough for them. But good for Anthony.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, hopefully for Daniel and Matt, so those guys can pick it up soon. There's a lot of young, talented hitters that they have, but definitely a lot of them are pretty raw. So, um, gonna be a little bit of up and down, tough sledding, I feel like.
Hmm. Absolutely. But yes, are we ready to dive into the week 3 matchups coming up on week 3? And there's some big ones this time.
Yeah, there is quite a few. I think the one we picked this amount to watch was me versus Eric. Um, uh, one of us is gonna come out of here with a losing record after 3 weeks, which is hard to believe. And in my case, if I lose, I will be 0-2-1, which will be by far my worst ever start. I don't think I've ever even started 1-2. So to be 0-2-1 would be an absolute disaster. So far, this matchup is certainly living up to the billing. We are recording this on a Tuesday as opposed to our normal Sunday, so we do have a little bit of information here. But yeah, Eric's had a really good pitching day. My offense is really turning it up here. It's gonna be one of us is gonna be an unfortunate loser here, unless we tie. But yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then looking at the other matchups, I just want to shout out my matchup with Jake. We're both 1-1. This is a 2022 finals rematch. Both teams have a uh, both teams have a win, but also a loss to Andrew. And are looking to get back into the win column here and try and improve to 2-1. I have not beaten Jake since God knows how long ago. I think 2021 was my last time beating Jake, and I don't even know if I beat him then. I cannot beat this team. I'm off to a good start, but even before Jake was good, I could not beat this team. Um, and we'll see. It's always been a dogfight either way. His wins have always been very close against me, but yeah, always a fun matchup.
Yeah, a little bit of breaking news here, not as much as the Jackson Holiday news, but speaking of that matchup, um, uh, JT Real Muto just left the game after getting hit in the neck with a pitch
Oof.
uh, while he was behind the plate. So hopefully he is all right. But um, yeah,
I do not like to see that. But yeah, so those are the matchups to watch. Let's pick them.
Let's pick them indeed, but before we pick them, I'm glad we were kind of more uh kind of organized in terms of remembering the order of stuff to do this week. But we do have to review last week's pick 'em. Uh, Pretty solid overall. So you, me, and guest picker Ruthvik all correctly predicted that Ruthvik would beat Connor, Anthony would beat Daniel and Matt, and Eric would beat Yuki. We all thought I would beat Alex. That did not turn out correctly. We kind of had a split on the Jake Andrew matchup. Um, Jake lost. You picked Jake. Uh, Ruthvik picked Andrew outright, and I picked the tie. And then none of us picked you to win your matchup, but you picked yourself to tie, so you got a little bit of a advantage there. Whereas both me and me and Ruthvik picked EBO to win. So I went 3-1-2 on the week. You also went 3-1-2 on the week. And Ruthvik won 4-1-1, so he beat us.
Oh, congrats to Ruthvik. One of the better guest picker performances in my mind. Not the most memorable. Certainly not as memorable as Andrew's 0-0-6 week as guest picker. Um, but yeah, very very strong week. The third individual person to do a guest picking week, and it looks like Eric historically has not done very well. So this is actually the best performance by guest picker ever. So congrats, Ruthvik.
Go Ruthvik. All right. Sure that means more to him than his 2-0 start.
I'm sure it does. Um, but yes, so we are I am winning, right? So that means I go first.
Yes, that is correct. Number of interesting matchups to pick this week. Wow. Go for it.
All right, let's
I don't even know if there's like a super easy matchup to pick this week, honestly. They're all pretty hard.
yeah, where do I even begin? I think that I think that Ruthvik will beat Alex. That's probably the easiest one to start. I think Andrew will move to 3-0 with a win over EBO, but it's tricky. I think Anthony will move to 3-0 with a win over Conor. I I think Yuki is going to beat the Drury, and that leaves our matchups. I th hmm. And I know we're not picking blind and it's tough. I think I'm gonna take Eric to beat you. Um, and drop you to 0-2-1, as crazy as it sounds. I um, find it hard to pick against Eric in a matchup like this. And as for me versus Jake, I succeeded picking myself to tie last week, and I'm going to do the same. I'm going to pick myself and Jake to be my tie of the week.
All right. Well, I'm gonna pick Ruthvik to beat Alex and Zach. I think that's probably the easiest one, like you said. I'll pick Anthony to beat Connor. I'll pick Yuki to beat Daniel and Matt. Then it starts to get a little trickier. Um, I think Andrew's gonna beat EBO, but it will be really close. I think that Jake's gonna beat you. And I think that Eric's gonna beat me. He just has way too much pitching this week, even though my team is on an offensive tear today. So yeah, there you have it. I think I'm gonna drop to 0-2-1. Can't believe I'm saying that. It's like a knife just going straight through my heart. But
We are both picking you to be 2.5 games behind Anthony um, after um, uh, after 3 weeks.
not only that, he owns the tiebreaker over me, so it's really a 3-game advantage.
Man, who would have thunk it? But yes, that is our week three predictions. Always a pleasure. I know you have to get back to work, so is there anything we want to wrap up here with before we move along?
No, can't really think of anything other than I am scared as shit for this week's matchup. Uh if I lose, I am so boned.
Yeah. No, it is going to be a good one. And yeah, both, all four of our top four teams are playing each other this week, and there's a good chance that, that after 3 weeks, two of us will have losing records. It's a big week in league history, and I'm excited to talk about it in our next episode.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited as well. Hopefully we both have some good news to report on our teams.
hmm No, absolutely. But yeah, until next time, yeah, thanks for listening. Glad we were able to sneak this episode in.
Yeah, absolutely. See you next time.
Every now and then I'm full of pride, and I need you now tonight, and I need you more than ever. And if you hold me tight, we'll be holding on forever, and we'll only be making it right, 'cause we'll never be wrong. Together we can take it to the end of the line. Love is like a shadow on me all of the time. I don't know what to do. I'm always in the dark, living in a party gang and get up spark. I really need you tonight. Forever's gonna start tonight. Forever's gonna start tonight. Once upon a time I was falling in love.
This podcast is good.